Hello and welcome to Fur. Today, soft fur, hair soft fur, and fur soft.
I'm sorry, what do you want about? Large pile of cat hair with my wife's voice?
Well, I believe Smudge might be shedding again.
How has she managed to fill the whole house? She's so small.
And soft, and I think it must be nourishment. She's well nourished, and therefore capable of producing so much hair. Greetings, strangers queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Harris Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast with two queer trans women.
The and me.
That's us. We're wifey types. We talk about stuff media-wise we've done in the week and have a little bit of a silly catch-up.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I am a sleepy little bean.
I am also a sleepy little bean.
I am glad to be less ouchy than I was the other day.
Hooray! I spent today doing a work project that I went through a range of emotions on, and
You really did.
It has drained me.
Oh no.
I started a project, I was like, I think I know what this is going to be, and then it was something very different, and all of my energy went.
Oh no. Well, if you've been drained, we could maybe stuff you back up with cat hair.
Well, there's enough of it about, I'd say. Let's talk about stuff we played this week. We should probably do that. What you played this week?
Well, I have been replaying Control.
You have?
Yeah, it's been nice to go back to it. It's been a little while. I mainly wanted to see what it was like with Whizzier graphics setting on. Because my old graphics card had ray tracing on it, but apparently it wasn't particularly good, and I know it used to really struggle. And given what my settings were set to, I was apparently only running it in 1080p.
Yeah.
Which is a fine amount.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking game. I'm now running it in 4K, and it still looks like a nice-looking game. But I did turn off most of the ray tracing because I wasn't really getting much out of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's still all the reflection stuff still works. Like reflections in like glass on a picture. That's still very good and detailed. It just doesn't have quite the same like bounciness apparently, but it looks fine and it runs slightly less hot, and generally I would like things to last longer and therefore not as hot.
Yeah.
But it's nice to get replaying it again. I have maybe skipped over some of the dialogue stuff because it's just fun to fly and levitate and throw things around and stuff. And I feel like I'm doing better at it this time than I did the first time. But there have still been like a couple of like quite firm sticking points, like the fridge mission,
Yes.
where you go into the other world and fight the former. That's one you're probably going to need a little bit of extra energy or health or some combination, different guns.
Yeah.
I've been making more use of all the different variants of the main weapon. I've been trying to do more like side mission-y stuff, like the alerts, because I don't feel like I really did a lot of the alert stuff the first time through, and it's like, actually, that's a way of getting quite a lot of extra, like, the things you need to power up and get extra places in the game.
Yeah.
But, I'm enjoying replaying it again, and I'm looking forward to getting to the weird endgame stuff, like the Alan Wake DLC. Which because I got the complete edition, and I hadn't played any edition before that, I sort of stumbled into it. I was like, hang on, is this Alan Wake stuff that's happening? Yes, it is. I just hadn't realised that it made that transition from main game to DLC. But that's I can't say. It's pretty. I love the brutalist architecture. I love that it's very strange. And it's been fun to go back and try after a couple of years.
Nice.
What about you? What have you played?
We've both played some of the same game that we can talk about, because we've been playing this during the review period. We've both been playing some What the Car.
What the Car?
Yeah, made by the people who made What the Golf, What the Bat. They make very silly games that theoretically are around one gameplay mechanic. In What the Golf, it was like top-down mini-golf. In What the Bat, it was VR game where your hands are bats. And then finding infinitely interesting little weird ways to slightly change your core mechanic. And as soon as an idea stops being either mechanically interesting or funny, they throw it away and do something else.
Yeah.
And it's like 3 to 5 hours, maybe longer if you're trying to like high score, try and get the golds on all the levels. Do a bunch of silly little nonsense.
Yes.
And this one, you are a car with a pair of human legs and a happy little face.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Generally speaking, you're a car with human legs and a happy little face, and you run around, and you do drifts like you would in a car, but just by, like, skidding your shoes on the floor, and sometimes there's little bear friends. And
lots of little bear friends.
The game throws a ridiculous number of silly mechanics at you. Like, maybe now you have very long legs, or you have rockets and have to do boosts, or maybe you have too many legs and you roll sort of cylindrically now.
Or you've had your butt sawn off and your legs removed and replaced with a photocopier.
Yep, maybe you now have office chairs for wheels and your controls will be very different.
Yes, very unwieldy.
Yep, what if now you're playing football?
Yes.
Yeah.
And bowling without football.
Yeah, so all of these levels I would say are, like, not too difficult to just, like, get to the end of.
Yeah, for the most part.
There's a couple of levels I would say are exceptions, and there's a couple of, like, deliberately difficult sort of optional levels.
Like it has specific challenge levels that are designed to be hard.
The ones that are like, here's a big skull, this is a challenge level, are you sure? You're going to have to see a lot of skulls before you get to it. Like, yeah, those are a bit trickier, but generally speaking, like, the challenge is there's a hidden collectible card in each level that might be a bit tricky to get to. And trying to complete the level fast enough to get a little gold crown on it.
I like that you don't have to do both in the same run. Like, once you've caught the card, that is your thing. Because very often the route you take to the card isn't necessarily the fastest one to get there. But it does always feel extra satisfying when you're like, okay, I'm going for the card, and I got a gold. Cool.
Yeah.
I guess I'm done.
It's nice. Yeah, it's nice that if you get the gold, the card on, say, a bronze run, and then you do a gold run later, the card, your little collectible card, updates to being gold. I'm like, nice, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this silly collection of games, and I feel very similarly about this one to the previous ones I've played, which is. It is a game that shows a lot. It reminds me almost of like how I felt about Mario Wonder when that released recently. It's fun to play a thing that goes, here's a silly idea, executed really well. You're never going to think about it again.
Yeah,
and it's just not afraid to just throw everything at the wall so that if something doesn't stick, that's fine. You'll be 2 minutes from now. You'll be playing something different, and it'll be great.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the series.
Yay!
And
I think this is the first one I played. I don't think I've played either of the others. It's fun. It's silly. I've seen footage of What the Bat and I think What the Golf, but I don't think I've played either of those. But yeah, it's fun. It's silly. None of the mechanics stick around too long, so if one is getting too difficult, you can just go, okay, I'm doing the bronze on this, I might not get the card, but at least I have, like, progressed through the game to the next area.
Yeah. It is silly little bursts of dopamine. It's good if you want just a little... I don't know quite what any level is going to give me until I jump into it. I do a silly thing. That was fun.
I imagine it could be quite fun to play, like, a level or a life each couch co-op with people.
Yeah, I've been having fun with it, but I'm not in any rush to 100% it during the review period. I'm like, I just want to dip into this every now and then when I'm feeling an urge for a burst of silly.
Yeah.
And to have some of it to keep playing for a bit. What about you? What else have you played this week?
That's it for me. Those are the two big ones.
Well, I've been playing one other thing this week, which I have 100%ed this week. I have 100% completed.
Yes.
The new Astro Bot game.
Ooh.
So... when the PS5 first launched, it launched with a free pack-in downloadable title called Astro's Playroom.
Pack-in titles?
Right.
In consoles?
Right,
Nintendo would never.
It's been a while for Nintendo. But yeah, Astro's Playroom, you play as this little robot called Astro, and it was a collection of a small number of little, levels that were all themed around, loosely around internal components of the PS5, and you had to, like, go find little robots hidden in the levels, and go collect coins that you could use at a gacha to unlock cosmetics.
And there
And
was a whole bunch of like stuff about the history of PlayStation
yeah,
consoles.
a lot of it was like, go find a bunch of old peripherals from PlayStation's history that go in a little museum together, and it was a nice little love letter to PlayStation's, like, particularly their hardware history. But it was all wrapped up in this platformer that was, like, very charmingly and polishedly made, but its big thing that sort of set it apart is that it did a lot of very sensory intensive stuff with the controller. This was, you know how Nintendo likes to go, we've got gimmicks for our controller, and you'll be able to point at a game and go, this,
1-2 switch.
I was going to point at something like Wii Sports with the Wii.
Yeah,
Something where it's like, it's very clear you made this console and you wanted a title at launch to go, this shows all the cool shit it can do.
Yeah, like, I feel like Wii Sports, the original Wii Sports is very much that. And 1-2 Switch is almost that for the Switch. Like, I remember it being like, this is really going to show off the HD Rumble. Like, how many ice cubes are in this class?
So Astro's Playroom does a lot of stuff with, like, the adaptive triggers, like, you're holding down a button to shoot a little toy gun, you can feel the trigger finger sort of clicking under your finger as the balls shoot.
Yeah.
Did a lot of very fancy stuff with controller rumble of, like, I can feel my little robot's running around on a different material or floor, or I can feel the rain tip-tapping on the top of the controller.
Yeah, you had some motion stuff, you had some
touchpad stuff.
So everything that makes the system as it is, and the liquid physics, the use of, like, lots of particles.
Yes. There's a couple of problems with Astro's Playroom. I think the one that a lot of people can agree on is it's quite short. It's a free pack-in title, I understand that. It is a relatively short experience, all things considered, but, other than that, like, the big issue is, particularly since the PlayStation Access controller was released a few years later, that is one of the few first-party games on PlayStation you can't play just using PlayStation's accessibility controller, because it has mandatory motion and mandatory touchpad inputs that you can't work around. You have to do motion and touchpads, which you can't do with their accessibility controller. So, Astro Bot has now come out, and, like, the easy way of describing this is, it's what if there was more Astro's Playroom? What if there was more? What if there was more Astro's Playroom? What if there was, like...
And we got some third-party characters
involved? What if there was, like, 20 hours of Astro's Playroom, and instead of being, like, kind of focused on being a love letter to PlayStation's hardware history, we were a love letter to PlayStation character history, and not just first-party characters, but characters that people who've played PlayStation their whole life associate with being PlayStation characters.
Yeah, so your Principal Cosmos, we had the Bloodborne
I don't want to, like, spoil too many of them, because some of these, like, unexpected third-party characters are, like, genuinely surprising to see get some love in this, but, like, I think a nice obvious one is something like Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk is not a PlayStation franchise, but everyone who thinks of Tony Hawk back in the day is like, yeah, it was a PlayStation game.
That's entertaining to me for virtue. Like, I can understand with, like, a lot of the other characters, but Tony Hawk is a real person.
No, Tony Hawk is a real person, I know, but you see what I mean, of, like...
But it just that particular one just entertains me.
Yeah, or, like, that's an example of a thing that people think of as a classic PlayStation character, despite being third-party. And this goes out of its way to be a real love letter to those kind of characters. And I was genuinely really surprised at, like, the breadth of characters they managed to get little cameos for in this, and that's really neat. One thing I like about this, beyond it just being expanded in, like, the scope of how much content there is there is a lot more, like, hey, sometimes a level will be, like, the same sort of length as a level was in Astro's Playroom, where it's, like, you know, a maybe, like, half-hour long, like, somewhat expanded level. Sometimes a level will just be, like, a 3-minute little encounter. Yeah. Sometimes it'll be an entire level dedicated to a big boss encounter. Each little galaxy you go to has a special level that's, like, pretend to be a PlayStation character and have different mechanics. And there's this real variety. And again, it's nice to be talking about this on the same week as What the Car, in that, not to the same degree, but this is another game that feels like it's not afraid to go, here's a new mechanic, here's a new idea, we're not going to let it outstay its welcome, off you move to something else.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something like Mario Galaxy in that...
I was one thing I was going to quickly say previously was I think you can connect it to Mario in another way, because not only have you got a level that might be themed on its own, but then you've got like possibility of like, oh, do a spin in this sand pit and you'll drop down into like a sub-level, and that might be just like a couple of little things to jump around, or maybe a little puzzle to solve.
Yeah, this feels like the closest I think anyone other than Nintendo has gotten to the Nintendo polish and quality of a 3D platformer.
Yeah.
Like, I really hope PlayStation keeps this franchise going, because it really feels like they've worked out, like, this is our high-budget 3D mascot platformer, and it does have that, like, very Nintendo polish of, like, we've got a bunch of interesting ideas, we've got a bunch of, like, love letter to the thing, but it's also just, it plays really well. And it's clearly made with a lot of love and attention.
Yeah. The platforming feels nice. Like the ledge guard is charming, but also functional.
Yeah, if you run up to an edge rather than fall off it, Astro sort of tiptoes and wobbles like,
whoa.
oh, I'm gonna fall. I'm like, oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
The ramp up in difficulty is nice. It's not, again, like something like what the car. Completing the levels isn't so tricky generally. The challenge comes from finding all the hidden bots, finding all the hidden puzzle pieces that unlock new kinds of buildings. You only need to find, like, I would say 50 to 60% of the bots throughout the levels to, like, make progress. But if you're struggling and want to help finding them, you can spend some coins on getting this little bird that will help you, like, locate roughly where these things you're missing are.
And then you've still got to work the rest of it out yourself.
Yeah, it'll bring you to a location, and sometimes you'll have to work out how to get there or how to interact with it. But it'll at least get you in the ballpark.
I suppose that does get around the thing from Astro's Playroom of the hint system being connected to whether or not you had PSN.
Yes. In Astro's Playroom, if you had a PS Plus account, you could get little hint videos that were exclusive to PS Plus for what you were stuck on, and here, it's just like, no, it's an in-game mechanic.
Yeah, and with spending in-game currency.
And ultimately, the 200 coins it costs you to get this bird is not the worst thing in the world, because in most levels, if you just replay the level, collecting coins as you go, looking out for the bird, getting its attention on something, you'll probably get most of those coins back.
Yeah.
Like, it probably won't be that much of a coin deficit to do. It feels more like it's mainly there to go, we don't want you replaying the level to find those things to be a grinding mechanic for coins.
Yeah.
Like, we want you to be doing it because you're trying to find the things and come out of it fairly coin neutral.
Yeah, but for if you do end up having to leave the level having already purchased the hint bird, you do get it for free any other time you go back in.
Yeah, which is
nice.
Again, very, very nice.
Yeah.
I maintain that I don't think any team making a PS5 game has done as impressive a job of fancy rumble as the Astro team has done.
Yeah.
Their commitment to really, really capturing very specific niche texture and feel sensations is impressive.
I would say I found it a little bit confusing initially.
Yeah.
In that I couldn't work out why there was a continuous rumble happening in one area. Because I was like, what is this like controller is stuck on thing? And it took me a little second to go feel what the rumble is doing. Oh, it's the rain. It's the rain that's happening.
There's a process of getting your head in the brain space of
there is supposed to be more rumble than you might get ordinarily.
Yeah, and it is related to something happening.
Yeah.
It is. I think it is like one of the things that really sets this game apart is that it does elevate what is already a very good platformer into being something that there's no other game that feels quite like it, which is really nice. There's no longer mandatory motion, and there's no longer mandatory touch swipes.
So how do you do things like the banging the nails in?
Sometimes it'll be press the X button.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll be move the left analog stick, so like if you're hammering a nail in, it might be analog down, analog up to do swing back, swing forward.
Right, okay.
Sort of like Skyward Sword's non-motion sword swinging worked.
It is a bit weird that, although it will show on-screen hints for how to do the motion, it's not actually giving you an on-screen for, alternatively, if you would like to do it with...
You're right, but I think generally speaking, it's not that hard to within a second or two work out what the motion is.
But
Yeah.
Like, flick between the two.
I agree. I don't think it's a hard barrier, but it would be nice.
Like, there's so little things to tell this game off for. That's just a minor nitpick.
I mean, there is one thing to tell this game
Well,
off
yeah.
for, which I'm very glad that they fixed like the mandatory motion and the mandatory touchpad swipes, but they introduced a new progression barrier. And it's not generally a barrier to, like, it's not a hard progression barrier. It's not going to stop you completing levels, but in a few places it will probably prevent you, without assistance for certain players, getting some of the collectibles.
Yes.
Sometimes a collectible will be hidden behind a mandatory moment of blowing into the DualSense controller microphone.
Yes.
Which, there is no microphone on the Access controller,
Yes.
and if you cannot do a big prolonged length breath into the controller, like a sort of make it sound like wind, that is a progression barrier to certain collectibles.
Yes.
And it's a shame, given that this game clearly knew enough to be aware of the progression barriers for accessibility in Astro's Playroom and to learn from them,
And added a new
but that
one.
no one caught that they were adding a new one in its place.
Yeah, and also this doesn't have any high contrast mode.
No, which... It
Feels odd from Sony.
It's a shame, given that has become somewhat of a first-party standard for them.
Yeah.
But again, that's like the most I can say to complain about this game.
Yeah,
It is
not big issues, just things that should be flagged for.
yeah. It is ultimately a pretty charming. It's a pretty charming platformer that doesn't outstay its welcome. Has a lot of interesting ideas. I think particularly its boss levels are. It's a shame there's not more of them because they are very well animated, very exaggerated, very stylized, very enjoyable encounters. Yeah, I have so little to complain about with this game.
Do we have a price for this?
So it's £60, so it is a full-price PlayStation release.
At least it hasn't gone to 70 yet.
Yeah, not gone to 70. So there are first-party PlayStation games you might get a longer playtime out of, but...
You might not get the charm.
Yeah, but this is a really lovingly made, it is so start to finish. Like, there is no wasted space in it.
It's got a lot of charm as well.
It has a lot of charm. It is jam-packed with just good-feeling content. I walked away from this after my almost exactly 20 hours 100%ing it and went, that was a bloody good time. That was a fucking great time.
Nice.
So yeah, I think that's the main stuff I've played this week.
Well, we should talk about one thing that we did together.
Oh yeah, we did do a thing together.
We built a tree.
Yeah, so we happen to be the owners now of a Lego set we might not have otherwise gone out and got for ourselves.
Product received for free.
Yeah, we got the Lego Deku Tree Lego kit.
Yeah.
The Zelda Lego.
2-in-1.
Yeah, make it into one of 2 Deku trees and then make a bunch of other little dioramas and things.
Yeah.
This was a lovely build to do.
It was a lovely build to do. I feel like it could have done with a little bit more clarity up front.
Yes.
Like, how are you going to differentiate? Because, like, it's very clear up front that, like, there's 2 different versions of the tree that you're going to make.
And you can't make both.
And you can't make both. But then, like, you start the book and it's straight into, okay, you're going to build the treehouse first.
Yep. From Ocarina of Time.
Link's treehouse from Ocarina of Time. It's like, okay, but am I using bits that I'm going to need for? Okay, I'll just trust the
And then
process.
it starts telling you to make the Master Sword pedestal from Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
And we're like, is this taking any parts that will lock us out of anything?
Nope.
And then it starts telling us to make the Deku Tree, and I'm like, have we decided which Deku Tree we're making yet?
Yes.
And it's what the case is you can build the tree house from Ocarina of Time. You can build the Master Sword pedestal from Breath of the Wild, and you can build up to X amount of the Deku Tree without using any parts that will conflict with any of the other builds.
I'm going to say about 50% of the Deku Tree.
Yeah, and then it's not until the book tells you this is a choose-your-own-adventure branching path moment that you need to go, cool, now I'm committing to if I build this, I can't build this.
Yes.
Which I don't think is a bad way to do it, but you're right, it could have been clearer up front.
Yeah, like if it just said, this is how this is going to work.
Yeah, you can build everything until we tell you you're going to have to make a choice now. But yeah, it's a charmingly detailed build.
It's got some lovely little secret bits.
Yeah. It's got some nice mechanical pieces that move and do certain things.
Yeah, the mouth opens so you can do the entering the dungeon scene.
You can have a little sculpture fall down from the ceiling.
Yeah,
so it
that's
drops down.
a little build. There's a couple of little hidden bits inside the treehouse. I will not spoil for people. There is a little box of basically Link's inventory is just a little box that hides in the back of the treehouse, and it was quite fun going. Okay, we made a thing. What if the thing? Oh, this is the hook shot, and this is potion, and this is a bomb.
It's quite charming the way that the instructions have little factoids about things as you're building them. Yeah. My favourite of which is when you're building the Koroks, they mention which Korok you're making by name and personality facts about the Korok.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's charming.
And there was a couple of extra Korok faces, so we made up our own
little chunky Koroks.
Slightly chunky Koroks.
I like that you can, there's enough there to be all of the characters can be built at once, including the stuff that is kind of specific to one or the other. So obviously you've got your minifigs and stuff, but you can also have, your
Hestu?
Hestu. You can have Hestu alongside also having the baby Deku Tree sprout. You don't have to, choose between some of these things.
Yes.
You can go a little anachronistic and have a few things that wouldn't coexist sort of at the same time as part of your little diorama.
Yes. And you can be brave in a way that Nintendo never have been and give Zelda a sword.
Without her having to dress up in Link's ghost first.
Exactly.
I love a lot of the custom pieces that have been built for this. The custom Master Sword mini is...
That's gorgeous.
Oh, the material used for the blade that's slightly translucent and has that slight glow to it.
Purple hue on the corners.
Yeah, it's really lovely seeing how some of the pieces are repurposed to make this. But yeah, it's all come together to make a very nice little diorama.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing I would say that isn't necessarily clear if you're going, I want the Ocarina because I'm an older nerd and I want that particular version of it, is... It's worth going back through the because that version doesn't come with it. Doesn't show you any of the Koroks.
Yes,
it was only by virtue of us looking through the bags we had left over and going, "There's Koroks in here."
Yeah, that's the thing. We built the Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time, and then we sort of just flipped through the Breath of the Wild Deku Tree half, looking for things that we could build that were clearly made out of components we hadn't used yet.
Yes.
So we made a lot of little extra things that didn't conflict with what we'd already built, like the one of the little cooking pots from Breath of the Wild.
Yep. The pedestal for putting the
Sheikah Slate in.
On.
Yep. Several Koroks. There's some other bits I'm sure I'm forgetting.
We made 4 whole beautiful trees that we stuck the cherry blossom.
Yeah.
on.
It's worth, if you build one version of the Deku Tree, looking at the unique pieces the other side gets to build that aren't the Deku Tree itself and going, maybe I can still make those and find a place for them.
Yeah, if you're going to build Breath of the Wild, you would miss out on building the Bokubabas and the mini Deku Tree.
Which again, I feel like a lot of those peripheral pieces aren't gonna overlap with the tree itself.
Yeah.
I think it's mainly just the tree itself you won't be able to overlap, but...
Pretty much,
even then, you can kind of use some bits and do some cool stuff anyway.
Yeah, and we've still got, despite having built a whole bunch of extra stuff, and extra Koroks and all the other little things, we've still got, quite a sizable bag of extra bits.
Yes, we do!
It's a very expensive item.
It is. It is a hard sell price-wise.
Yes. But if you are someone who has 260 quid going spare, and which I imagine at the moment isn't a huge amount of people,
and the space to set it up,
and you are a massive Zelda nerd like the two of us,
it is a really charming.
It is a charming kit.
Thing, and it was a very pleasant build. It was a very nice build to sit and do together.
It was, but we do enjoy just a sit and build a thing together anyway.
We're both people that enjoy Lego, but neither of us. It's rare that we do a big Lego build because the big expensive.
They're
Lego
too expensive, and we don't have anywhere to put them.
That's the thing. That's the thing. And it was a nice rare treat to go. We get to do one of the big fancy Lego sets, and it was It's one of those, like, if you have the money and you decide to invest in it...
Or you can convince Nintendo to send you one.
It does turn out to be a really nice kit.
Yeah.
It's a really lovely kit.
Yeah. And I am enjoying the fact that it is over there on the shelf. We managed to find a good space for it. And I just hope Smudge doesn't completely destroy it by nuzzling it like she does with my little cacti bonsai.
She's yet to show desire to nuzzle it, and I'm hoping that continues.
It's nuzlocked.
Yes, I think that's everything we played this week.
Well then,
time for this.
Right, so we're basically working on this new concept we've got called cosmic horror. We're thinking maybe beings of unimaginable size.
Oh, yes.
Unimaginable power that could, as you are to an ant, they are to us.
Okay.
Unfathomably massive, complicated, multi-dimensional beings. What have you got any thoughts about what we could sort of add to this genre?
Well, of course we'll want to throw in some thinly veiled allegories to people from places that are not here.
Why would we want that?
Well, because unfathomable fears.
Well, I mean, when I said, unfathomable, I was thinking, maybe we talk about, like, obviously the fear of the deep water, obviously that, and
the fear
made
of
a whole thing about fish people being a reference to people from the African continent.
Well, yes, of course. It's unfathomable fears, the vastness of the universe.
Yes.
Things beyond our imagination.
Indeed, yes.
A person whose skin's a little bit different to mine. Unfathomable horrors.
I don't know. I mean, I have eczema. Is that bothering you? Is that too much for your mind to handle?
Well, no, that's not an unfathomable horror.
Right, okay, but someone from down the road who's a little bit darker than you, or someone from a different continent who's got more melanin than you, that's where your mind starts to collapse.
He lives down the road and he said a word I didn't understand. That's unfathomable horror.
Do you remember when Jenkins said heterodoxy the other day, and you had to look that one up and you got very upset?
Yes, unfathomable horror.
No. Look, Herbert, we have to... No. Just no. None of that. Look, the big, terrifying creatures, obviously we can link that to the fish if you want.
Big, scary fish sort of space monster in the sky.
Yes,
you look at it and your brain explodes.
Well, yes, I can see that may be a bit much for a human mind to take.
And also it's French. Unfathomable horror.
I was in France last week. The people there were lovely, the food was delicious.
And your brain didn't explode?
No, it didn't. And I really think we need to get you some help, because you seem to have some problems of your own that will not be, I fear, solved by anything that you have to add to this cosmic horror.
Unfathomable horrors.
I've been thinking of a new fun game to do.
Oh, does it involve destroying something the humans beloved?
It does.
Yay!
But I think they might get in trouble for doing it.
Yay!
But I've been thinking, there's that new fancy little thing the humans built.
It's like little houses. For people.
Yeah.
Little people. And yeah.
I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I was Godzilla?
I saw that. That looked fun.
What if I was big and destroyed the tiny city?
Like Godzilla. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Can you breathe big purple laser?
No.
No.
I can throw up on it.
Oh, hairball.
Yeah.
Hairball power.
Yeah. But I got resist. If I do it now, humans around, they can stop me.
Oh, okay. Wait till they go to bed, maybe?
Yeah, but you're gonna have to keep me from doing it until then, because I really want to do it.
I really want to do it now, too.
It's fine. We'll all assist each other. We'll stop each other until it gets dark.
I could start making a sound like a milkshake machine right now, though.
Okay. One of us is on distraction. The other be Godzilla.
I'm going to start backing up. Oh, my body's in a complete U shape now. False alarm. I need to shed more and lick it. Maybe I licked a woman's hairbrush.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
Well, I'm going to quickly talk about a film that I saw this week.
Yes.
I saw a film called Kneecap. This is a film about Irish rap music, and specifically rap music sung in Irish, that is fundamentally a film about resisting English oppression and standing up to the police,
As you should.
and the importance of language in maintaining a cultural identity.
Yes.
And the way that music can be used as a form of cultural rebellion and standing up to authority, and that other communities can find rebellion in hip-hop for very similar reasons.
Much like other communities find punk.
Yeah, like, it is specifically addressed at one point in the film. It's like, hey, we recognize that, like, hip-hop is a genre that was used to stand up against black oppression. We're using it here to try and do something similar because it has an energy to it.
Yeah. And I think also there is something to be said about, maybe not at the time that this is set, but the ability to get hold of tech without having to go, I have learnt how to play a guitar.
Yes, yeah. So, the basic premise of the film is that a music teacher married to someone who is currently, like, was trying to fight for the right of Irish to be recognised as a nationally protected language, who recognises that his students in school, like, he sometimes gets brought in as a substitute teacher to teach Irish, and all the textbooks are, like, really old and out of date, and, like, no one's gonna get excited about learning their local language if they're learning from, like, 40-year-old textbooks that don't represent the life they're living.
Meanwhile, you have authority figures around you going, don't speak Irish, speak the Queen's English.
Yeah, and this teacher ends up bumping into, through accidental happenstance, a person who has been writing Irish hip-hop. And he has been doing so because, like, growing up, his dad very much was like, every word of Irish spoken is a bullet loaded against the English, and the two end up meeting. The short version is, the teacher gets brought in to be an interpreter because this kid is refusing to speak English to the cops when brought in, and this teacher realizes he's got a bunch of LSD tucked in his notebook full of music lyrics. And simultaneously is like, these are really good lyrics, but also I cannot let you get caught with this acid. So he sneaks the notebook out, finds this teen and goes like, you've got good lyrics. Like, you could be doing a good fight for, like, getting Irish out there with this. And they end up making this band that is very, as with a lot of, like, teenagers doing hip-hop, you know, sometimes you sing about things that the establishment are like, you shouldn't be talking about those themes. And specifically, like, at a time where they're trying to fight for the rights of Irish as a language, it's like, oh, talking about sex and drugs, that's not a good image for the Irish language we're trying to fight for. You know, you're making our language seem like a bad thing.
Yeah, especially since there's, like, very strong religious feeling in Ireland.
Yeah, so the sort of overlap between religion and the oppression of English, and the very tenuous nature of how Irish is being perceived at the time means there is a lot of uphill battles for this trio to try and make their hip-hop. Things that I respect about this film deeply. The music's fucking banging. There's some real good catchy tunes. They get stuck in your head. I like that the film is not afraid to just have long portions be in Irish with subtitles. Not as much as I expected there to be, but any time that it was important that they be speaking Irish, no shying away from it.
The trailers really do make it seem like it is going to be 90% in Irish.
It's one of those things where, like, there is more English than you would expect, but any time it is important that Irish be spoken, it is spoken, and it is used great. One thing I think the film really captures is that idea of liberation from oppression needs to include the right to be non-sanitized. That if your liberation only exists if you are politely behaved and don't do anything naughty, there's not liberation.
Yeah.
And
otherwise, we're just talking about respectability politics.
Yeah, exactly. It really focuses on that respectability politics stuff of, it is important to fight for the right for, in this case, language to be used to express ideas you might not like, because if you can't express those ideas in a certain language, that language is only conditionally accepted. It's not, people who speak English don't get their right to speak English taken away because they talked about sex and drugs. The same should be true for Irish.
True. This is giving me vibes of like listening to my stepdad talk about what it was like growing up as a Welsh person who had been obviously taught Welsh by most of his older family at a time when the English were like, no, you speak English, and it is that same.
Yeah. It's the film's got a brilliant, defiant attitude to it. It's got some great tunes. It's got some really interesting visual stuff. Without getting too much into specifics, one example I will give is before going out to do a set, they might accidentally have snorted a line of ket that they thought was coke.
Oh,
and there is
happen at nightclubs.
and there is a scene that involves some people turning into plasticine for a while. There are some excuses for some interesting visual stuff to be done that I was kind of caught off guard by. Yeah, it's an interesting film. I think it is well worth seeing. I am very glad I gave it the time.
And the tunes in the trailer sound great. There's some really banging drum and bass in there.
There is some proper banging tunes in there, even if one of the tunes in there keeps making me think of that group of school kids doing the thing.
Oh, the
Can stop
RTE
what we
kids?
do. I doubt it.
Yeah.
There is one tune in there that is close enough.
That is also a banger, though.
It's also a banger. But I keep going, the music in that film's a banger, and then I'm like, no, that was those kids again. Yeah, really good film.
Yay!
What about you? What you watched this week?
We watched 3 films together for National Cinema Day.
National Cinema Day / weekend, yes.
Yes. So the first film we went and rewatched I Saw the TV Glow.
We did.
I cried again, but harder this time.
Yeah, we did. We turned up to a screening of that, and the usher that let us in was like, "Have you seen this before? It's really fucking good." And we were like, "We know,
We have seen it before.
we've got colourful hair and pronouns. We know."
And yet somehow we were not ready.
Oh yeah. That film hit. I was going to say just as hard the second
I
time.
think it hit harder a second time.
Yeah.
Because you know where it's going. Some of the word choices really make other bits feel harsher.
Yeah. I think the thing that made it hit harder was mainly there was a kind of hope and optimism I had on the first watch as to where it might end.
Yeah.
That on a rewatch, knowing where it ends, certain things you could be optimistic about, like maybe this will play out this way.
Yeah.
You have to go, I know where this is going to end, and I'm feeling that reality much sooner.
Yeah.
And
I think the first time you watch it, if you are someone who is trans and has come out, or like even socially transitioned, I think you are probably going to approach it with a little bit more hope, and that is how we went in the first time. And getting to it the second time, we were just like, but we know how this ends. We're going to have a really sad time.
Yeah, but maybe it'll be different this time. There's still time. It's not too late. It's never too late.
It's visually very impressive. I still maintain that the villain you see from the pink opaque at the very beginning of that is fantastic for the 2 or 3 seconds that villain is on screen. And kind of hilarious when that is called back to as the but looking back at it as an adult, I mean, I think we talked about this the last time we watched this, the concept of, as a child, someone slightly older than you can look like a very adulty adult.
Yes.
And then as an adult, as a proper adult, seemingly in your, heading to about your 40s, looking back on that same show and going, oh my god, they're all children.
Yes, 17-year-olds seeming like adults versus suddenly they all look like 9.
Yes.
And that, difference of frame of reference for, what a 17-year-old seems old or not.
Yeah.
Is they captured that so fucking well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Having watched it a second time, I'm like, this film is magical. It's wonderful. I have so many feelings about it.
Yes.
I will maintain what I said before watching it the second time, which was I'm really tempted to get a little ghost tattoo on the back of my neck after this film.
I'm up for getting a pink tattoo.
Yeah, they really sold me on the concept of the pink opaque.
I would be curious what the budget for this film is, because, like, a lot of it is shot in quite limited spaces. The makeup is seemingly pretty basic, and then you've got just quite fantastical effects, like, I mean, I'm sure it's relatively easy overlay. The first time as an older person, like towards the end of high school, where the main character has the second sleepover and has that moment of seeing the TV glow appear above them.
Yeah.
Versus and then the scene with Mr. Melancholy.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. I have no idea how some of those effects were achieved, like if it was entirely digital or what.
Yeah. I looked into the budget. It was made on a budget of $10 million, which for a film is pretty small.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like location, cameras, equipment, props, lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess a lot of it was actually shot on location in an actual school.
Yeah.
And maybe they had an inflatable planetarium.
Yeah. It is a film that I will think about for a long time, and a film I suspect over the years I will come back to every now and then and have
probably
thoughts
find
about.
some kind of permanent media to own it on.
Yeah, or I would like to own a physical version of this in some form. It's quite something.
But it is fascinating. I'm glad we got to see it again.
Yeah,
and I think you mentioned that this writer director has another film, and this is part of a trilogy?
Yeah, this is part of a trilogy of films that in some way address TV, I think. Okay. One of which is already out and one of which is coming up. I don't know much about either the previous one or the next one.
Certainly something to look at.
I'm curious to see more of this creator's work, for sure. But we also went and saw another film at the weekend.
We did.
We went and saw a screening of My Neighbor Totoro.
Yeah!
Which... both of us had a realization leaving this screening. We've both seen My Neighbor Totoro before. Wonderful, charming little Ghibli film.
Never seen it on a big screen before.
Never seen it on a big screen before, but we both realised we don't think either of us have ever seen a Ghibli film with children in the room before.
No, I'm sure I've just, watched it with friends. I think I bought it on DVD, and that's kind of the only experience I had. I've watched it with other people, but none of them have been with children.
The screening we went to was a morning screening at a weekend that definitely had a lot of families with quite young children.
Yeah.
It was
before noon, and there was a lot of seemingly very small children. I don't know about.
I would say there was a good number of 3 to 8 year olds.
I don't know. I'd say they come up to mid-thigh, aren't they?
Yeah,
small people.
And I'm usually I don't get on well with screenings with children in them. There was something kind of charming about
this.
There
was, because they were, just the way they were relating to, May as a character.
It was really interesting to see, decades after this film was created, how much it still, really enraptures children, and, completely preempts their responses to things.
Yes.
There's a scene where the two children in this film are, washing clothes and going, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you could hear children in the back after it stopped still going, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's it understands how to write children that children will find relatable in a way.
Is something I definitely wouldn't have ever thought about previously.
Yeah. Of all the Ghibli films that a whole bunch of children could be in a screening for, I think this was one of the better choices.
Yeah.
Because... It's got May, the very young child, who is the sort of toddler stand-in.
Yeah.
I'm going to do some silly slapstick stuff to keep children entertained.
Yeah.
And its moments of sad, worrying peril are not a huge part of its runtime.
They're not very long. They mention the possibility of Mum dying maybe 4 times in 3 minutes, and then that's it for the entire runtime.
Yeah, there's a period of time of this character is missing, that's a bit scary, and some, I'm worried my parent's gonna die, but then a big cat bus comes in, and it's fine, yeah, we're gonna go save the day!
Yeah.
It is a lovely film.
It is charming, it is, I like it as, the most low peril Ghibli film. I think...
It's the one I think that captures the balance, perhaps best, of slice of life that isn't too dry, that has a little bit of peril and fantasy, but that still has room for just slowly taking in life.
Also, just beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
I think that's. I think because it was when we went to see The Boy and the Heron, I was thinking at the time, like, I would love to see more Ghibli movies on a big screen, which is why when this came up as a possibility for a rewrite, I was like, yeah, I would absolutely get a chance to watch that. It did make me think, though, if Ghibli films have been fed into AI, maybe this is why weird disconnected things happen sometimes in AI art, because a lot of the trees are sort of stylized where, like, you won't see the branch itself, but there will be, like, a few extra leaves just on the very edge of a tree that do appear to be just slightly floating, and that's absolutely fine, generally speaking.
Smudge is knocking the microphone.
So yeah, that made me think maybe that was it. It was there to soil AI many years ago, because this film's from what, like 1980?
I believe it's 88.
88, yeah.
I think, yeah. So it's held up real well.
It really has. I suspect that's probably going to be the case with most of them.
Yeah. Ghibli knows how to do. Ghibli's very similar to Nintendo in terms of knowing how to stylize something in a way that's going to look good for a very long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other film we went to see was we went and saw the first Beetlejuice film, because the sequel, Beetlejuice is coming out soon.
It sure is.
And yeah, the original Beetlejuice, I always forget that film's, like, pacing of, like, how long events take to happen is really different to what I imagine it is when I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I think you get a bit focused on certainly, like, the last 15 minutes.
The last 15 minutes being only 15 minutes feels strange.
Yes.
When you think back on that film, that the bit where Beetlejuice is out being Beetlejuice, because you've said the Beetlejuice word,
Yes.
is like 15 minutes at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And that so much of that film is anticipation of the what if we let him out, is not necessarily a fault of the film, it's just a very interesting choice.
Yeah, it's much more about the couple who have died.
Yeah.
Coping with how they will go about haunting, and their dislike of this horrible... The parents, at least.
Yeah, this horrible family
is
of
basically fine.
capitalist parents and their goth kid that's like, I really don't approve of my parents' behaviour and I just want to know about the cool ghosts in the attic.
Yeah.
Having not seen this film in a very long time and largely seen Winona Ryder as present-day Winona Ryder, watching this I did go, that is tiny Winona Ryder, and my brain struggles to process tiny Winona Ryder here.
I don't know how old she's supposed to be in this film, but she definitely looks like she's in her mid-20s.
Really?
That's what I think.
I felt differently.
Yeah.
I thought she looked younger. I would have gone like late teens.
I don't know. I'm not good at judging age.
But yeah, there's things about this film that, like, I sort of knew on paper, but didn't really remember until we were rewatching it, such as Michael Keaton's performance in this. It feels like he's being paid by the word, and afraid that if he stops talking, he might die. His performance really is...
Cocaine.
Cocaine! Cocaine meets Auctioneer, meets Season 1 of Star Trek Lower Decks, that whole vibe of, I'm afraid that if I'm not trying to squeeze another joke in and I stop to breathe for a second, you might forget I'm funny.
Yes.
It really is a... you described it, I think, as used car salesman energy.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it's that...
I'm trying to, just keep talking until you agree to buy me, in this case.
Yeah. I'm trying to say enough words that simultaneously... I say enough things that one of them, like, is a hook that you seem interested in and I can latch onto. Or if I say something that you don't get on with, I can move on so quickly you forget I said it.
Yeah.
Some of the practical effects work in it is great.
Yeah.
There's some occasionally ropey green screening.
Some of the stop motion is... I think it's just at such a low frame rate that it gives it, I think, less charm than you might otherwise find for that, but I don't hate it.
I fall a little on the other side of the spectrum. The fact that it is so... like, low frame and janky kind of makes it more endearing for me.
Yeah.
It's definitely a matter of taste thing, but...
And I think something about the style of the house as it is designed later in the film really makes it look kind of empty. There's like scenes after the seance. There's a few shots where obviously at this point the whole house has been redecorated to look like it's marble, I think is supposed to be the design there. And that sort of gritty, like very grey and white and black, like weird countertops, but the whole house is that. And then on top of that, you've got like just a few set pieces, like the dinner table and the weird bits of art that come to life, and that gives kind of a sparse feeling, like it gives it, I guess, sort of like an art student type film vibe, which for a film that is otherwise quite so densely populated with like things going on in the background, things going on in other places. Those few scenes feel a little bit empty and low budget, but I guess that is by virtue of the style of the house that they have chosen to design. But yeah, it's alright. I think Danny Elfman's soundtrack's as fun and shenanigans as ever. Danny Elfman sure be Danny Elfmaning there. But yeah, it was good to see, and I am refreshed to see that before the sequel. And curious where the fuck that's gonna go.
I have, like, the reviews buzz around that sequel has been very strong, so I'm excited to see how that works out. Yeah. What about you? You watched anything else this week?
That's it for me. You watch anything else?
I think that's it for me as well.
Well then.
Time for this.
Hey Laura.
Yes?
We've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you sometimes go on the internet?
Regrettably, yes.
And do you see the comments on, like, posts and things?
Angry rage comments are everything make me angry. I'm so angry at the wokes.
You know, yeah, because they're full of insecurity and so forth. And they're scared of not being the centre of attention.
Yeah.
Because game is woke.
Yeah.
You know. Well, this week's sponsor is ragedestage.lol.net.
Tell me more.
It replaces internet rage comments with a post instead showing the insecurity that fueled that posting.
Ah, so yeah, I see. This game is woke, becomes I'm scared of not being the centre of attention.
I miss when films didn't fucking suck. I miss the carefree, uncritical magic of my childhood.
Why don't they make any games with men in them anymore? Once again, I'm scared of not being the centre of attention.
That one seems to be that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of them are just, I'm scared of not being the centre of attention anymore, huh?
There's also a good number of right-wing media has convinced me that anything that's not directly about cishet white males, such as myself, therefore means that I am being erased or reduced in some way, and I must fight to not be wiped out, because eradication.
Oh, look at this one. This one says, I'm angry because it's easier than being scared.
Oh. I hope that the people who write these comments can see what their Rage Stage comment is and maybe process some of that.
I hope so too, but I think that's optimistic.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I know you don't like it when I start these telling you that we got a problem.
Okay.
We do have a problem.
Oh.
It's a problem related to money.
But I don't like that.
No, I very much don't like that. So we started making that big new live service shooter and poured, like, years of money into making this thing.
I mean, we do that a lot. So, which one was this?
This was the sort of colorful hero one, the one that released, like, this week.
As opposed to the one we released last month.
Yeah, this week's one.
Right. A lot of hype for that.
It didn't sell. Like, at all.
Oh.
Like,
how?
less than 300 people bought it.
But the tribe that we created of vicious, angry bigots.
The problem we have is we keep making games that demand, like, your full attention. Like, you have to be playing this for years.
Yeah, this is a
becomes
job
like a
for
full-time
you.
job to play. And we keep releasing one after another.
Yeah.
And it turns out players have a finite amount of time in their lives. And eventually, we've hit a saturation point of we release too many and no one's got time for this one.
How come? I mean, we have so much leisure time and we're always saying we need more things to do.
Right.
How come other people do
because
not
they're
have...
poor. Because they're poor.
Well, yeah, you'd think, if you don't have a job, then sure you've got even more free time to just give us money, right?
Apparently that's not the case. And, yeah, no one bought it.
Right.
So I've been working on a strategy to try and salvage this thing, because we spent too much money making it for no money to come in. So,
can we write it as like a tax write-off, maybe?
I think because we put it on sale, I think that ship has sailed, unfortunately.
Right.
But I got a plan. We take it off sale.
Right.
Which no one's fucking bought it. It's not the end of the world.
Right.
We change nothing.
Right.
And then, 6 months later, we from now, when, it's been a while since we've released one of these, and it's maybe a better time, we put it back on sale, and we say we made it good now, and hope that it's good now hype makes it sell good the second time.
You are a fucking genius.
I hope.
So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a huge amount this week. It's mainly been a playing and watched week. But I did listen to the first episode of something I was kind of interested in, which was Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance Episode 1, which is a Dragon Age audiobook style, audio drama podcast leading up to Veilguard releasing soon. So there is an overall story of its own, but it also seems to have been structured very deliberately as a way to one by one introduce the companion characters that you're going to meet in Veilguard.
So everyone you've seen in the trailer.
Yeah, all of those people who are going to be your party members are going to very briefly... It's not a story about those characters, but the story will be sort of wrangled as to kind of bump into those characters along the way.
Right.
The more general plot is that you have this couple, one of whom is very well off, one of whom is from a more societally frowned upon background, and they have this relationship and it works well, but there's this sort of tension of us being publicly together causes some issues, and one of them has a history of having done, crime heists in the past and stuff, and the instigating incident of this is the man in this relationship is like, hey, I want to marry you, and the woman's like, I can't do that because you do not realize the spotlight and problems it's going to cause on me to have to start moving in the circles with your fancy people who will hate me. It's going to draw a target on me. Can us loving each other not be enough? And she goes out to cool herself off, and she gets offered hey, there's one job you could do, and it would it could change your situation entirely. You just gotta go steal this one artifact and, it'll be plain sailing. And the heist does not go as planned, and the artifact does some weird shit, and now there's a quest needing to be done. Maybe Fancy Man doesn't have his fancy status anymore, but also maybe is trapped in another dimension, and maybe woman's gotta go work out how the fuck to rescue him.
Okay.
And it's very clear that, this is being constructed in a way to just be an excuse to meet some characters and go to some places that are going to be from the setting.
Little bit of a prologue.
Yeah, and, while that is the case, it's clear it's existing for a purpose, and the story's going to be wrapped around to make that purpose work. The production quality is really nice. It is very high production value in terms of, getting all the game voice actors in to do their parts, and lots of, we're in a scene at a party, there's lots of background rumble, there's a fight happening, there's lots of fight sound effects, and lots of very dramatic musical swells and things. It's a lot of effort's been put in, and they do a very good job of creating an image without going, I'm going to stop and describe the visual things of the scene, like an audiobook might. There is no narration to it. For something only told through character dialogue, they've done a very good job with it. It is interesting. I'm curious to see where it goes, while not being the most invested in the world, because I can see the structural points in it where it's this is existing to be a set of character intros as much as it is to be a story that's being told for its own sake, and I need to see how much that continues to be felt as it progresses, if that makes sense. It's if your story has to take a stop and detour to meet all of these people accidentally along the way who won't have met each other when the game starts, it's like, I'm curious how that will be handled.
Okay.
What about you? What have you been listening to this week?
Well, I have continued chowing through Terry Pratchett Discworld audiobooks. I listened to the rest of Sorcery. I think I started talking about this previously. Yeah, it's a Rincewind book, and I've never been a huge fan of Rincewind books. It's one of those early Discworld books where I'm a little bit weirded out by, or just a little bit uncomfortable around some of the portrayals of characters that are clearly supposed to be in areas like Arabia or Egypt, places like that, because and it does make me wonder, like, if this is something that's been talked about before, because I feel like Pratchett is talked about as being like one of these universally alright people. So I don't know if this was something that was commented on some other point and maybe corrected, or if this is one of those things. Oh yeah, white people talk very loudly about really liking this one person, but other people have said, "Hey, that's kind of problematic."
That's a fair question to ask.
I don't know, but like there's, and I don't know if some of that at least is just to do with the way the audiobooks have been read, because at least as far as Sorcery went, there were some very uncomfortable accents in there.
Yeah.
And I haven't actually sat down and read a Pratchett book since, I want to say, Raising Steam, which was a while ago. But yeah, like, I'm probably going to listen to more of them, because I'm not paying anyone any money for it. Like many good audiobooks, if you look around, usually YouTube is a surprising place for people uploading complete audiobooks. Yeah, if you're looking for that kind of stuff. Yeah. I also then listened to Weird Sisters, which is a witches book, and I love the witches. They're a lot of fun. That one is basically Hamlet.
Yes.
I have never read Hamlet, but I'm aware of the outline, and it sort of covers that story, and it is an interesting way to retell that story. And yeah, I enjoyed that more. I have now started on Pyramids, which is already making me go, we're doing the thing again about sort of Middle Eastern countries. Are we? Where are we going with this? Am I going to feel very uncomfortable about the whole thing by the end? I guess we'll find out, and I will report back and let you know. But yeah, that's most of what I've been listening to this week. We put on some background music while we were building a giant Deku tree.
Yeah, we did.
We listened to the Game Chops albums, the Zelda trilogy, which is just a bunch of like nice lo-fi hip hop style tracks of just like your OC remix styles. We're gonna redo a bunch of Zelda music, which was perfect background music for listening to while building a Deku tree.
Yeah.
It was a nice time. Did you listen to anything else?
No, that was it for me, really.
Well then.
Time for this.
I say, Minister, have you noticed your inbox has been a bit quiet the last few days?
Oh, yeah, it has. I don't know what's been going on.
Well, I was chatting to one of my civil servant chappies, and apparently they've installed this bigot block thing, and so the bigots, the known bigots, the ones who write to us every week, and we assume is everyone because they're the ones that write to us constantly. We assume that is the general public. They've been blocked.
Oh.
Yes. It's basically flagged as spam, thanks to this bigot block thing, you see.
How will I form new bigoted opinions without those emails?
Well,
I needed those emails for forming bigoted opinions.
Well, we now get emails that are a bit more representative of, the public at large. When people actually feel strongly about a thing, rather than being in a position where they have a lot of free time and very bigoted opinions and a lot of hate in their heart, they write to us on the daily. Now we have less emails to worry about, but the ones we get are more, representative of what real people think.
Those other emails are long and boring and nuanced, and I like the other emails. They were short and to the point and emotively told me what to think.
Well, these ones will also give you some suggestions. They've actually seemingly been getting better at writing them. They're clear, they're concise, they explain sort of what they're hoping for from us, what the problems are. And, I've thought that, maybe we could, take a slightly more nuanced view of how we respond and how we, bring things up in Parliament and such. And I think it might be good for all of us, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we go and have some subsidised champagne?
Yeah.
Yes!
Coo, 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 coo. Oh, what are them bloody kids today? One of them humans. Oh, the little ones.
Ran up at me, right, and did a big stampy noise.
Oh, I fucking hate when they do
I
that.
hate when I do it. I had to fly away a little bit, not far.
Oh, they
not
did it to
far.
a group of us the other day. Just sneaky, stomp, stomp, stomp.
I know, some other nice people had put down some seed. Friends, yeah. But then the little ones came up and tried to scare us all away. Boo, boo.
Oh.
So I think we all maybe want to get together and do something about that.
I mean, there is many, many more of us than them.
There is. We could maybe write a strongly worded letter in Pigeon to the child's parents and ask them to be disciplined and not do that to us no more.
I mean, we could group together, and if there's enough of us, could we make a big scary sound for them?
Oh, like we land on we fly up all rapid like, and then we all land at the same time, and maybe we can make a big stump.
Oh, a big stomp.
I hear the crows know how to use rocks for stuff. Maybe enough of us together could lift a really big rock, and we could do a big stamp near them and make them run away.
Pigeon Union!
Pigeon Union!
Go!
Pigeon, coo! Coo!
Go!
Coo!
Go!
It's the humans, coo!
Go!
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Racial Justice Warriors.
Racial Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Right, Larry. All right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, I have been better, but there has been some nice weather, so I appreciate that.
It's very appreciable.
You doing all right, mate?
Doing all right. I've been. I'm not a big sports person, but I have been somewhat paying attention to the Paralympics.
Right, yeah. I don't watch TV, but I have heard that there's been some interesting coverage.
I mean, I don't watch TV myself either, but I've been seeing some snippets from disabled people who've been there, who've been talking about some of the cool accessibility stuff going on.
Yeah. I
with,
saw a couple of good TikToks. Yeah.
Yeah, some stuff about making some of the sports blind accessible with sort of score.
The tactile tray thing, and you can follow the ball around because it's moving magnets. That was very clever.
Exactly. But it has also led to a real spike in a thing that's always happened, but weirdly the Paralympics going on has caused it to happen a bunch more. Again, discussed recently is people who are not disabled just deciding to grab the handles of wheelchair users' wheelchairs.
People feeling quote unquote helpful.
Yes, deciding of their own accord to grab a user's wheelchair handles and just start manoeuvring them. And I think it's really easy to fucking explain the problem with this, which is a lot of wheelchair users will describe their wheelchair as an extension of their body and should be treated as such.
Yeah.
I heard someone describe it the other day as if you wouldn't grab onto a couple of bones sticking out of my back, you shouldn't be grabbing onto me handles. In that, any grabbing some wheelchair users' handles without asking and starting to manoeuvre them is essentially the same as if you were to just grab a person who was walking on the street and physically start moving them with your hands. It's, taking someone's autonomy about their ability to move unmanipulated. Yeah, it is assault. It is grabbing someone against their will and physically manhandling them.
Yeah, that's like saying, oh, well, there was a child in front of me. They were in my way. I picked them up, moved them to one side so that I could get past.
And, when you bring this up, you'll get people who'll go, well, what about this exception? What about this exception? And, most wheelchair users I've spoken to are like, yeah, of course there is exceptions. If I'm accidentally going out of control, about to go off the edge of a pier, sure, grab me hand will stop me going off.
Absolutely.
But generally speaking, you do if it's not a life or death imminent situation, you do not need to be physically manipulating anyone else and moving them on their behalf if you have not been asked to, whether it is them standing or whether it is them using a wheelchair.
I also heard someone saying that it can actually be quite dangerous, if you're going up a ramp. Your shoulders under quite a lot of tension at that time, and if someone suddenly changes the amount of pressure that you're under, that can actually do you a bit of an injury. That's something I'd not previously considered before. But I assume you probably haven't been in a wheelchair today only. You've probably had some experience with going up ramps. You know yourself whether or not you've taken a big enough run up, or if you're finding a ramp, maybe you're having a greater degree of difficulty, you'll know if you need to bail out and roll back in a safe manner. And again, you can't account for someone running up behind you, that's another one I suppose that I've heard recently about people talking about people literally running over there's some kind of emergency, which then puts you on the back foot again, because suddenly it's do I have to be worried about something because you're running at me like there is an emergency? And just grabbing me while I'm, trying to do potentially very risky manoeuvre. You have now made it more risky.
Yeah, last one is, sometimes I've heard stories of people who have had their wheelchairs damaged because the person who started grabbing and manipulating their chair did not know what they were doing and, moved their chair in a way that was going to cause it damage, Sometimes if you've got
power chairs not designed to be...
they're not designed to be manually moved, particularly if, the motor is not engaged. You can do damage,
Yeah. Well, I hope that people will, eventually learn. Again, this is something you should be taught in school, I think. This is another one of these sort of courtesies and skills that people are not taught from a younger age, and I think maybe that needs to be more of a thing. But maybe that's just me. Fancy hug, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think I'll go and have a little lie down.
Oh, lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura,
yes?
you do things on the internet, and people would probably like to find out where do those things.
Yeah.
Where do those things?
You can find all the stuff I do on the internet at Laura K. Buzz, pretty much everywhere. You can find me at Laura K. Buzz on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills, Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the things. Just Laura K. Buzz, you'll find me in all the places. There might be a book review up this week that I'll link to on socials. There'll be an Astro Bot review, accessibility review up on YouTube, probably some other stuff. Laura K. Buzz, you'll find all the things. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Well, I don't have unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linktree.ee/JXJANEIAC. You can find music I've written and t-shirts I've designed and other things I've written with words. You can find all of that stuff over there. You can help support me and help get these episodes edited at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio, and as little as $1 a month really freaking helps. So that's everything for me. Laura?
Yeah?
Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.